is Andre Augustine, Guardian of the Gods. You're watching Rock and Roll All Night.
I have an announcement to make. I am doing my question and answer now. Please ask as many questions of any subject matter you'd like. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I asked you before about Eric and Bruce.
I read in your book that Eric and Bruce Kulick.
You have my book?
Yes, I did.
Thank you very much.
No problem. And that they would eat off of the Roadies food during the tours.
Now, come on, that's what you asked, but you know what I said, right?
Yeah, I know. Maybe everybody else.
Okay, let me explain. There's a story in the book that says that Gene and Paul got upset because Eric and Bruce, at the end of the Revenge tour, Eric was bragging to everybody, Gene and Paul, that he had saved like $2,000 over the course of the tour in per diem. Now, if anybody that doesn't know, per diem is the amount of money that you get per day to survive on the road. It's usually, depending on the band that you work with, anywhere between $35 and $100, depending on where you are in the world and where you are, you know, what they're used to paying and how they pay per diem. And that money is for your day-to-day expenses on the road. Any outside food that you want to buy, phone calls at the hotel, room service, you pay your bill or whatever, laundry, excuse me, anything that you would find over and above, that are just necessary expenses on the road. Since there's not much opportunity for people to go to, say, an ATM machine or to get cash on the road, so you get a per diem. Well, Eric would, at the end of this tour, he was bragging about all the money that he'd saved. Well, during the course of the tour, every night, or often every night, Bruce and Eric would go around in the band's dressing room. There's a meal that's provided, usually like cold cut platter, vegetable platter, chips, dip, sodas, juices, whatever. And they would make themselves little care packages to take back to the hotel, for a late night snack or for lunch the next day. And so they saved money. They didn't order room service. They saved their money. And Gene and Paul couldn't understand why these guys would make a sandwich and take a bag of chips and a couple of sodas and put it in their bag and take it back to their hotel room and try to save the money when, they would just order room service and have stuff sent up. Well, it was just, they couldn't understand because they weren't in the same position that Bruce and Eric were. Bruce and Eric were hired guns. They were side men. They weren't part of the band. They were outside of the band, signed to a contract, a set fee, and so that's one of the stories in the book. But they couldn't understand it, but they were at a different level than Bruce and Eric. So it wasn't that they were eating food taking from the Roadies. It was a band meal that's always provided in the band dressing room. Anybody else? Yes.
I read on KissAsylum.com.
KissAsylum.com.
Yeah.
Is that anything like GuardianOfTheGods.com?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's a different address.
Yeah.
You had said in an interview that, I guess it was Ace Frehley had asked where somebody was, and that person was never even on tour with you guys. Is there a lot of incidents like that with Ace?
No, the question is Ace used to get confused a lot. That's the answer. But the story is we were in a van one time and he asked, where's David? And David is the hairdresser, the guy that, does their hair before they go on stage and whatnot. And so Ace asked where David was, like he traveled with us on the plane or something, and he never did. I think maybe one time the whole reunion tour. But he, it was like out of left field question. And, you get a lot of that from Ace at times, but, that's part of his whole deal and why he's, Space Ace, because you get a lot of, statements like that from him out of nowhere, just off the wall stuff. But we love him, right?
Is it true? Does Gene
What, are you
bang?
following me around?
LA?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Is it true? Does Gene bang anything that moves?
Not anything. I mean, like you. I don't think he'd be trying to bang you, but yeah, the general rule for Gene is anything with tits and a heartbeat. So, you know, but I know this is a family show, so we won't elaborate too much more. Terry.
Yes,
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Something about Ace?
No, it's a technical question.
Really? Oh, okay.
I have a question about what happens to the costumes after the show. Sometimes exactly what happens to the costumes? Like right after, do they go back to the hotel after the show? Or
Well, what the normal progression of events was after the show is we do what we call a runner, which is the guys, you know, they play the last note, and then they come off stage, and we get in cars that are waiting or vans or whatever, and we go right back to the hotel. Go up the service elevator and back door, and get them to their rooms, and then they would change out of their costumes in their rooms, and then there was a bag there for each guy's costume. Costumes would go back into the bag, and then we would send the bags back to the wardrobe person back at the venue, and she would do whatever, clean them. We carried a washer and a dryer with us, so she was able to do the undergarment stuff, the leotard stuff. She would wash that or in a washing machine or hand wash it, and then all the leather stuff just gets hung up in the road cases, and there's vents and stuff in the road cases, and that stuff usually dried out overnight. But they had a couple of different versions of each costume, so if something wasn't dried out, then they would use the other stuff, the next version. Oh, Terry, that answers your question. Yes, sir.
What's the funniest road story you can tell me about Gene?
You know, there's a bunch of them, but over there, after this question and answer for $22.95, in Guardian of the God, you'll be able to read all of that stuff. Anything else?
I'll buy the book.
Okay.
Did you get a chance to see Paul and Phantom?
No, didn't go up there and see him yet. I might go up on the second half. He's there for another, what, 3 weeks or something? So Halloween night, yeah.
All right, I got a good question.
Yes, sir. Everybody know this is Lou Rodriguez. He's the one who's the reason why we're all here today. This is your promoter. Everybody want to give Lou a round of applause for putting on a great event. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay.
You heard that, right? Lou.
Yeah. During the reunion tour,
Yes.
okay, there was always seats up front that were empty.
Yes.
And I seen you go around several times. Were those reserved where you would go and find, you know, nice-looking women and bring them down? Was that like every show they did that? Or was that
Nice-looking
occasional?
women? No.
It's a question.
The main reason, well, let me explain. When they put the shows on sale in the contract to the promoters, they tried to reserve the front row tickets to have for the band to give out. And what those were kind of like fan appreciation tickets. And Aerosmith did it. We did it on KISS at my suggestion. And what we would do is Tony Moorhead and I, excuse me, hello, I'm trying to work up here. Kidding. Anyway, Tony Moorhead and I, who was the other security guy on the Revenge tour, or the, what do you call it?
Reunion tour.
Reunion tour, yeah. What we did was we would go out into the audience before the show and try to find really appreciative fans that were going to really have a good time up there in the front row to trade tickets with. And sometimes it would be pretty girls, which Lou is accusing me of. But Tony usually did all that.
I didn't see one guy go up there.
Yeah, well, okay. Maybe that was just the show you were on.
Coincidence.
But what we would try to do is get, and a lot of times what I do is we'd go way up to the nosebleed section and find, you know, a guy with his kids and his wife who had been fans of KISS since the very beginning, and then what they were doing is passing the tradition of KISS on to their family, And we would, you know, we'd approach them and say, hey, look, you know, we've got these front row tickets. We want to give you, we trade you for your tickets, go out and have a good time. A lot of time people would be skeptical. They wouldn't believe us. They'd look at us like we were crazy, like we were trying to sell them tickets or give them bootleg tickets or whatnot. But, you know, with some convincing and showing them laminates, and, you know, we'd have our headsets on, radios, look really official. But sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. But, you know, the main thing was to give, you know, really appreciative fans, a real fan who would enjoy that, you know, front row.
Take your word on it.
You have to, Luke.
Was there like any real like serious injuries or big incidents that you had to confront during your years of security?
Yeah, there was a couple of times when things were. What happened is, you know what a general admission floor, it's kind of like what this is in a concert where there's no seating on the floor. Everybody's kind of, you know, pushing to the front of the stage. It's kind of dangerous. It's kind of, you know, people getting hot and sweaty and dehydrated and fainting and passing out. And a couple of times in my earlier years, one instance in particular with Run DMC was where what I would usually do for those shows is perch myself right on the edge of the stage, right here, and watch the barricade, or right in front of the barricade, and watch the kids. And a couple of times saw kids go down and they would pop back up. But this one particular instance, I was watching a kid and he's kind of, you know, in and out, fainting almost, and he went down, waiting and waiting. You know, 10 seconds goes by, 15 seconds, and then I just went into the crowd, trying to keep my eye trained on the area where he went down. And then once I got to that area, you know, got the people's help to push back and make a hole and got him out of there. But some dangerous stuff like that, some stuff that happened in South America with some cars. You know, what they do in South America is they have these little Fiats or little Toyotas down there, and you get in the van going away from the airport, going to the hotel, and they're like chasing you. And there are 3 or 4 or 5 cars. And what they'll try to do is they surround you. They get on both sides of you, front and back, and the front car will slow down. And the whole time it's like a cat and mouse game between the driver who's, you know, done this with all the big bands. They have, you know, several promoters down there that work these bands and work these shows, and these drivers drive for them all the time, so they know what the drill is. And what these kids do is they get in there, 4 or 5 or 6 kids in each car, and they're driving like maniacs. I mean 75, 85, 90 miles an hour, you know, in Bogota, Colombia, chasing you from the airport to the hotel to stop, get you to, you know, stop and sign autographs in the middle of the highway.
Okay, so there wasn't anything like a almost robbery incident?
No, nothing dangerous where somebody was trying to kill you. No, nothing like that. It's usually just fan stuff, you know, people wanting autographs, a hug, a kiss, you know, mob scene at the airport, trying to get off the plane, going to the vans, you know, nothing like that. But, you know, that stuff can be dangerous as well, you know, just because of the crowd dynamics and people pushing and shoving, and, you know, somebody falls down and gets trampled in a crowd situation, that kind of stuff.
How does Kiss feel about...
Just a second.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
How much did Gene gain?
How much did he what?
Gain.
How much weight did he gain? So let's see. Gene's favorite thing is chocolate chip cookies. So he likes crunchy desserts. But he's probably gained, you know, 5 or 10 pounds. Give or take a pound or 2. You? Again? Okay.
Do you know why Peter didn't throw any drumsticks on the reunion tour of the Cycle Circus?
Well, the traditional throwing of the drumsticks out in the audience is, to me, from my point of view, is very dangerous. You know, if it's just tossing them out to somebody, you know, in the front row, 1 pair or something like that, it's okay. But I discouraged him from doing that from a safety standpoint. You know, you throw a drumstick out like that, and it twirls over and over, and it can catch somebody that's not paying attention, you know, and hurt them, you know. Or there's the other thing that when people throw stuff out in the audience, there's a big mad scramble for it, and sometimes you end up, people get in a fight over something.
How about when the guitar is broken, thrown into the crowd? I mean,
Same
looks
thing.
Like people go bananas.
Same thing, you know, but that was so much a tradition, you know, that falls in line with them and, you know, them in makeup that, you know, that couldn't be denied. So, right here.
I got two questions.
Yes, sir.
One is, does Ace really live in Sharon, Connecticut? Does he have a house in Sharon, Connecticut?
Well, I can.
I mean, it doesn't, you know, I'm just saying.
You want the address and the phone number too?
I already know where it is, but I just
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to, like...
Well, don't tell anybody else.
But another
And don't go by there.
And the other thing is, the last time when somebody was asking a question about Ace,
Yeah.
it felt a little cold.
Felt cold?
Yeah,
I don't
like,
understand.
it's another Ace question.
No.
You know? No, I mean, I'm not like, I'm just asking you.
It's just teasing. Anybody that knows me knows that
Well, I
I'm
don't,
a
that's
big
why,
joker.
you know, that's why I'm just
Yeah,
asking.
it's just a joke.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This isn't a security question, Andre.
Yes, sir.
Why do you think Detroit Rock City didn't do well at the box office?
Louder.
Why do you think Detroit Rock City didn't do well at the box office?
Why didn't Detroit Rock City? Personally, I haven't had a chance to see it, so I don't really know.
Wasn't the theaters wide enough?
Other than, yeah, probably wasn't a wide enough release. It wasn't promoted properly. Did it get cut down from R to PG?
Not to my
Or
knowledge.
did it? It stayed R?
Yeah, they are.
So maybe that was, you know, a factor as well. I mean, can anybody comment and tell me if it warranted an R rating?
No, it didn't.
It didn't?
No.
So, you know, there's one.
It was dazed and confused with the plot. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
funny movie, you know?
That's one big reason.
It was better than the
You
first
know.
one. It was
Yeah.
definitely better than the first one.
Well, you mean Phantom of the Park? Well, that wouldn't have been hard to do. These two guys right here could have probably put together something better than that.
How many people actually went to Detroit Rock City and liked it? I liked it.
It was like last time we were doing like
Well, it is half of the 4.3 million in gross.
Yeah. Is that all the gross? 4.3? They spent what, 12 or 14?
I heard between 11 and 15 million is what it cost.
11, 15 million? Or probably 3 million of that went in Gene's pocket, right?
That was for the 1.5 minute performance they did in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's gotta be worth 3 million.
Well, you know, producer credit and, you know, back end points.
Who else got a question?
Right there.
How's Peter and his sobriety?
Howard Peter and his bride. They're his sobriety. Well, his bride and him are fine as well as his sobriety. No, he didn't have a problem with it. See, the thing about Peter is once he makes up his mind to do something, he's like a freight train, and he just keeps going as long as there's, you know, steam in the engine, you know, and keep putting fuel in there to burn. He's straight and narrow. Not a problem. What about Ace? What about Ace? What about Ace?
Was he sober on tour with Ace?
Was Ace, the question is, was Ace sober on tour? Yes. Yes.
I heard he wasn't.
You heard he wasn't.
The guy over here that wrote that book said he was loaded a few times on tour.
That guy, where is that guy? Where is he? Get him up here. He and I are going to fight later. Felix Trinidad and De La Hoya. Huh? Yeah, but he wasn't around. I was there every day. Day in, day out, day in, day out. Who you going to believe? Him or me? Huh? Thank you. No. I mean, you know, what goes on behind closed doors, I can't comment on. All I know is every day he got up on that stage and he performed, you know, like Ace. So that's all I can say. And I'm not, you know, the judgmental type person to say that, you know, he was doing what he wasn't supposed to do, you know, and I'm not the person that advocates, you know, people don't drink and drug, even though, you know, it's your personal belief. So I'm just saying he performed the way he was supposed to perform every day on stage. Don't you agree?
Totally, in a big way.
You know? Yes, sir.
How'd they get along towards the end of the reunion tour?
Great. Better at the end than at the beginning.
Really?
Yeah, at the beginning it was a lot of friction, a lot of, you know, looking over each other's shoulders, but as it went on, you know, it got better and they meshed and gelled better and, you know, on and off stage. So it was better. I'm sorry, just one, go ahead.
I was just wondering, from your security standpoint, how was your relationship with law enforcement, working with law enforcement at the shows?
Not only with KISS, but even early in my career, that's kind of like was my background as I came out of working for a company that was a crowd management company and dealing with building people and interfacing with law enforcement, you know, on a daily basis that was something that I did, you know, every day when I used to do the rap tours. And we had to do that. We had to meet these guys, make friends with them, get them on our side so that we could, you know, use their resources. So that was something that, you know, I did every day. It was like second nature. Not a problem. Yes, sir.
The Peter and Ace, are they any more important than Bruce and Eric were on the tour financially?
Not quite sure what you're asking me.
Peter and Ace, are they part of the band or are they just employees as well?
No. As far as the relationship with Gene and Paul, I would have to say that Peter and Ace, you know, they are KISS. So it's a different situation. Are you asking me specifically if they had the same type of contracts as Bruce and Eric? I don't know. I wasn't privy to that information, so I can't say. From the way that I saw the things and the way that, you know, things were working, and I never saw any, you know, checks for people to get paid. I don't know how their financial thing, you know, worked out. There were rumors about them being just sidemen, kind of hired guns like, you know, Bruce and Eric, but it was clearly a different situation. You know, it wasn't the same. You know, but there again, you know, Gene and Paul were the controlling interest in the band. So, you know, depending on, you know, who you talk to, you get different answers. I personally think that it was, you know, it was still a family situation, like it was in the beginning. It was just the split was different. It wasn't a four-way split. What it was specifically, I don't know. I'm sorry, what was your last part?
No, there never was a four-way split anyway. Sure.
Well, at the beginning it was. When they first started, you know, it was a four-way split. This time, you know, it wasn't equal. I don't know what the differences were though. Back here in the back.
What was the one show in St. Louis where Peter didn't play the drums?
Columbus, Georgia. 2295. That's one of the main stories on it. All right. That was, yeah, Columbus, Georgia.
Let me just finish up on his question there on the four-way split.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It was a four-way split, but since Paul and Gene were writing most of the songs, they were getting a lot of the, you know, the royalties. So they actually were making more money, I assume, than, you know, Peter and Ace, because they wrote most of the songs.
Right.
You know, and
there's all different ways that the money gets split out. You know, when money comes back from record sales, you get, you know, a certain amount for each record sold, but then the writers also get, you know, a royalty. You know, whoever does, however the writers' credits are split up, and it's called mechanical fees, and they get, you know, they get paid different money on top of, you know, what they would get back for, you know, each record sold or each CD sold. Yes, sir.
Could you elaborate on the laser pointer incident? What happened?
Laser pointer. I don't know. I wasn't on that tour. What happened?
Peter Chris got someone had one of them laser
Really?
keychains.
I bet he didn't. It's pretty dangerous.
He was on stage saying new mother effers, come up on stage a little bit. Yeah.
See, that would have happened if I'd have been on that tour. WCW and KISS.
Failed.
What about them?
Do you know anything about them, or
Failed.
how often we're going to see them? Or
I think that's done, isn't it? It didn't work out. I think that initial offering that you saw on TV, it didn't get good ratings, so they didn't continue it. But you know, it's just one of those things. Yes, sir. Oh, here we go.
Eric Bischoff was dismissed from his position as president of WCW, so that gimmick and any other gimmicks he was running was dropped.
Really?
They were going to do
That's
a
a
paper
shame.
supposedly.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
With kids. But it's got
Bad timing. Maybe it'll happen again. Yes, sir.
We got a young fan over here that wants to know where Gene gets his blood from and how does he get that to come down. Joshua wanted to know.
Where is Joshua?
Joshua's over here.
Come over here, Joshua.
It's all psyched out.
Come over here. Joshua, that blood that Gene uses on stage was a concoction of several different things. And there are companies, there are like stage companies that supply stuff like that. And they kind of ordered it out of a catalog, a basic, you know, theatrical blood, and then he put some other, his tech, Mike Rush, put some other stuff with it to make it, you know, kind of a custom thing. But it wasn't anything that would harm him. And it wasn't real, but it looked real, didn't it? Just like you. Very nice costume. Yes, sir.
Right. You've worked with all these bands through the years, and I was just wondering, you had these professional relationships with them.
Yes.
After you left your employ with them, do you maintain a personal relationship with any of them?
Yeah, I mean, anytime if anybody has played any kind of team sports here, anybody played team sports, football, basketball, baseball, it's like that. You know, you go through certain things with people, even though there's a fine line, a distinction between employee and employer. There's certain things that you do that you just live with these guys. You know, they're the first thing in the morning. The first thing they hear usually is my voice, waking them up. You know, I call them on the phone. You know, it's a prescribed time. They're supposed to wake up at a certain time. If there's a show, we got to get out. We got to get, you know, the machine moving. I'm the first thing they hear, and I'm the last thing they see, usually. You know, other than a TV, I'm the last human person that they see or hear from, you know, every day. And there's a certain relationship that you have that just transcends employer-employee relationships, and you become more than just the employee, you know.
On a regular basis?
Oh yeah, I talk to everybody. I mean, a couple weeks ago, Run DMC did a show in LA. You know, I was hanging out with them. I hung out with them the whole time. You know, went to the show. It's great seeing those guys.
Was that the awards?
No, that was, this was actually a show that they played. They performed at Universal Amphitheater a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I talk to everybody all the time. Got to keep in touch with people. Yes, sir.
Just wondering, in the Tom Snyder interview, the Dynasty era.
Don't know anything about that.
Dynasty.
I'm sorry. I'm young, man. I'm not that old. I'm not as old as you. I may be able to answer it, or you may be able to answer it.
I just know Gene was pretty pissed at Ace's behavior, and I just wondered. It kind of felt good to see him not get all the camera that day. I was just wondering how he felt about it after.
I don't know. Lou, you have any comment on that?
Well, according to Bill O'Coin, Bill and Ace drank a whole bottle of champagne before they went on. And,
all right.
And, you know, the whole thing was that Tom was told that Ace was the quiet one and not to ask him any questions. And it was total opposite, and Tom thought that the producers played a joke on him. Like it was, you know, told him the opposite thing, but Ace was plastic. And every time you see Gene look back, he's looking at Bill O'Coin. That's what he's doing.
Yes, sir.
Whatever happened to, what's Tony Moorhead doing now? And what happened to Bear?
Bear?
The bus driver?
Yeah, the bus driver Bear. He's great. We saw him, or I saw him a couple months ago. He was driving Reba McEntire. But he has like, Bear has like 5 or 6 real consistent clients that tour all the time. So he just kind of goes from one to the next, you know, to the next, to the next, to the next. He's doing well, doing fine. Tony Moorhead, he was working with Black Rose this summer in Europe. They opened up for Aerosmith, I think. over in Europe. He was doing that, and I don't know, he's probably home now. Haven't talked to him for a couple weeks. But he's doing fine. I'll tell him you said hi.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take 2 more questions.
2 more?
One,
They
two.
better be good ones.
1, 2.
Go ahead.
What was morale like on the,
Thanks, Lou. What was morale like on the Revenge tour where ticket sales were pretty low? And,
Well, as well as you guys know, these guys' personalities, Gene and Paul, their attitude is like this. If there's 100 people in the building, if there's 10,000 in the building, the 100 deserve the same show as the 10,000. So they're going to give them exactly what they came for and what they spent their money to support them for, So morale was, they weren't really that happy that they weren't selling out everywhere, but their attitude is a professional attitude is I'm going to give them what they came to see. So, of course, they were disappointed they weren't selling as many records and as many, tickets in those days, but they still gave it their all in a professional manner.
was that tour actually officially cut short because of ticket sales?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So it's kind of like a snowball effect, At the beginning, there's a lot of hype and potential, and the promoters, they spend X amount of dollars, and they guarantee to bring the bands out on tour, and they sell those shows. And then after it goes a certain time and they see that they're not getting the ticket sales to support it, then either the guarantee goes down or the promoters just stop buying the show and putting them out. So towards the end of that tour, that's what happened, Promoter anxiety and Lou can probably attest to this, it's a nerve-wracking business. And I think Lou really, he does a good job, but he really appreciates everybody that came today. Right? Right, Lou?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. I was just wondering if you know anything about how Peter's wrists are doing?
Peter's wrists are fine.
And do you know if Ace still plans on continuing to go with Kiss as long as they feel like sticking together?
I think so. Their relationship, the relationship that they all have is like brothers, And you've probably heard Gene say it in interviews or read it in interviews is that, they're family, but sometimes everybody doesn't get along or agree on the same things. That doesn't mean you don't love your brother. You still love him, but you may disagree and be mad at him for a certain amount of time, but, you're still brothers, and that's the way they are. They may not agree all the time, but I think the bottom line is they're always going to be there for each other, and they always will, be Kiss.
Okay, let's give Andre Augustine a hand. All right, if you still want to ask Andre questions, he's going to be at his table over there. He'll be selling his book. He'll be signing autographs, whatever you want to do.